two items. One is the Oracle standard reports and the next one is the GL period closure. So as far as the Oracle standard reports are concerned, there are a lot of, as you have performed your data entry, then obviously at the end of the month you want to run the reports to see how your numbers are looking like. So there are a lot of reports available in the system to meet different requirements. Some of those prominent reports are account analysis report, trial balance report, budget report, journal entries report, chart of accounts report, trial balance translation, journal entries, entered currencies. There are so many reports which are available. So you can go to view, request, submit new request, and these are all the different reports which are available in. So for account analysis, there are various flavors. Account analysis 130 to 180, 180, so many different things. So these are actually basically the format of these reports are a bit different. And similarly for trial balance, you got various version. Trial balance additional segment detail, trial balance average, trial balance budget, trial balance detail, encumbrance, expanded translation, and so on. So there are so many such reports. Similarly for journal entries, you got so many different reports. Journals 132 characters, 180 characters, and so on. So I just start with say account analysis report. Okay. For the account analysis report, this is the ledger for which I want to run the report, and what is my ledger currency, and what is the uh, type, whether you want to run it for, this is maybe you can pick up entry item, balance type, whether you want to run it for actuals or budgets or encumbrance, say actuals, and what is the period for which you want to run the report, September 17, from period and to period, and what is the account code combination for which you want to run this report, company 01, all departments, so 002 ZZZ, and you want to run this report for a specific account or all the accounts. If you want to run it for all the accounts, you can say 002 ZZZ, all the sub accounts, all the product, all the intercompany, yeah, order type, say by source, run. So in a live environment, when you run this particular report with these parameters, wherein I used everything, account from and to as everything from 00 to ZZZ, it takes hours together to run the report. The reason being, there will be a lot of journals which are available in the system. So now in this example, we are running this report for the Reliance INR ledger, and we started using this only couple of weeks back. So there are only very few journals. So click on view journal output. So this is the report which will show you the journal source, journal category, batch name, account description, and the debits and credits for those account code combinations. But in any live client, we generally go for the customization of this account analysis report. The reason being, you can see, looking at the report itself, this is Oracle standard provider report. You looking at the report itself, you can see there is a lot of limitations. See, one limitation is batch size. It is truncating. Journal name, it is truncating. Account code combination, it is not showing the account code combination. It is truncating because this is how the report is designed. Description also, it is truncating. So none of these are actually providing you a proper picture. So you need to go for the customization of this account analysis report. So once you customize this report, you can come to this particular screen, same screen, click on submit new request, and you customize the report and you register your custom report. Then you can pull up that particular custom report from here and you can run the report. Similarly, your trial balance report, account analysis report, journal entries report, most of those report, whatever I have seen out of these reports are straight away, these are the only reports which I have seen customers are using. Trial balance translation, trial balance, and what else? I think the chart of accounts detail listing. And for all other reports, they have their own custom version. So here I can see a couple of other custom reports which users request in any implementation project. A custom report which will show the list of approved journals. A custom report which will show the list of pending for approved journals. Now there is no standard report. You will be surprised that there is no standard report which will say that what are my journals which are not in an approved status. And a custom account analysis report, custom journal analysis report, custom period status report. So these are the some of the custom reports which I can think of. I mean, in a real world, there could be a lot of other custom reports also. You can practice running so many different custom reports for September period, because for September periods, there are a lot of journals which we have entered in the last couple of weeks. If you try to run it for say some other month, say October or August, there is no data, and in the report output, you will not be able to see anything. So any questions on the standard report before I proceed with the last step, which is period closure?
No.
Okay. So the last step is the GL period closure. So what is period closure? Generally, GL period is the last period which you close. So generally, you ensure that all the subledgers are closed on the last working day of the month, and then you proceed with the general ledger period closure. So how do you open and close the period? As you know, like whenever you start, before you start entering a transactions in that particular GL period, first you need to open the period. Similarly, from the same screen, you can close the period. Go to setup, open close, Reliance INR ledger. So now you can see I do not want to enter any journals in August. Okay. So today is 23rd of September. So obviously still September, there could be a scenario wherein I will be entering the journals under the September period. So I do not want to close September. I want to close August period. In a real world, this August period will be closed somewhere around the first week of September. Click on this three drop down, click on closed and save this. Okay. Once you close the period, okay, and when you close the form, a request get triggered. Wait for this period close program to be completed. Once it is completed, you can go back to that particular form and you can check the status of August period. And in the background, it is running some other program, create report sequencing. That's fine. As the period close program is completed, you can go to this form and verify. Now it is in close status. As you can see, as it is in closed status, you can click on this three drop down and you can again very well open that. This being a testing environment, we have got an access. But in a real world or in a real client, closing and opening of the period access is provided only at restricted users. And once the period is closed, if you want to open the period, then you need to take a lot of approvals. In some cases, we need to even take an approval even from the CFO of the company once the period is closed. Because once the period is closed, your numbers are your numbers are, your financial reports are generated and they are actually sent to your auditors and everything is done and dusted. If you want to reopen the period for some weird business reason, you have to pass some kind of an adjustment, then you need to take a lot of approvals and then only you need to approve, enter your adjustment general and close the period. And from an Oracle perspective, Oracle has given a functionality of permanently closed. In an ideal world, once the period is done and once the reporting is done, you need to actually change the status to permanently closed. But once you change the status to permanently closed, system will not allow you to reopen the period. Even Oracle also will not provide any kind of data fix. That's it, it's done and dusted. This particular field itself will be grayed out once you permanently closed. We can try that. This action is irreversible and permanently closes all the periods up to this particular period. Are you sure you want to permanently close all the periods up to this particular period? I say yes. Okay, save this. Okay, again concurrent request is triggered. Let's wait for the request to be triggered, request to be completed. For some reason, I have seen in all my previous clients, no clients has actually used this particular permanently closed functionality, even though they have got a proper process in place that once they close, in order to reopen, they need to take a lot of approval. But maybe I think that maybe I'm not sure whether they're scared or something like that. But they have not used this permanently closed functionality, because once you permanently close, you cannot reopen that. Okay, see, it is grayed out. You cannot change the status to any other status.
Uh, One question, Arvind. If we use this permanently closed, whatever the transactions that are done, if you want to do with respect to the adjustments, can that be done even though if it is a permanently closed?
Okay, if it is permanently closed, August 17 is permanently closed. Okay.
Yep.
Go to data and screen, journals, enter new journal. You'll not be able to see August in the drop down because it is closed. So now you do not have any option to enter journals in August. The only option left for you is to pass those adjustment entries in the next period, which is September. Okay.
But how you are going to refer that adjustment is for the August period?
So again, that is actually kind of a business problem, because they have made a mistake. They should have passed those journal entries, because when you are closing a period, there are a lot of checklists which they maintain. They take a lot of approvals, and when you make some mistake, That's it. So somehow they need to manage that in your reporting perspective. Maybe you can use some kind of a description here as a reference, but there is no other field which says that, oh, this is the adjustment related to August, wherein I missed out to enter that in the previous period, something like that.
Okay, okay. Is that the reason that usually we'll close it and then we'll close at the end of the year permanently closed?
Exactly. Ideally, they on a month-on-month basis, they do not change the status from closed to permanently closed. At the end of the financial year, once the reporting is done, then generally they go and change the status to permanently closed. Because once the numbers, financial reports are already generated and sent it to the shareholders and your auditors, then you are done and dusted. Even if there are any mistakes, then law says that if there are any mistakes, you can enter those journals in the next period and you can put some kind of a comments there. Okay.
Okay.
And Arvind, can you just brief on the journals correct screen?
Okay. So journals correct screen, journals import correct. Okay, this is the screen which we can use if whenever you are getting the data from your legacy system or from Subledger, if it gets stuck in the interface table for some weird business reason. Okay, you can pull up those records from here. Now I will not be able to pull up anything because I don't have any data under INR ledger which is struck. So if I select any source, say payables, click on font, I'll not be able to see anything. Or any other source, spreadsheet, I'll not be able to anything. I will not be able to query anything. So if you are able to query any of those records here, you can come to this particular screen and you can edit this. It is nothing but updating of the GL interface table from backend. Instead of updating of the GL interface table from backend, we are updating that from the front end screen. So there could be a very scenario. I'll give an example. You get a data from your source system. Okay, today is what, 23rd of September. So ideally your August is already closed in our case. Okay, but for some weird business reason or for because of some mistake or for some reason, legacy system has sent you data for August period. So when they send the data, the data goes through your GL interface and then general input program, and general input program will error out saying that the period is in a closed status and the data gets stuck in the GL interface table. Then you come to this particular journal import screen and go to this screen, and I think you can go to this which is there is some field wherein you can enter the GL date. Yeah, GL period. So you need to come to this particular screen and change the period from August to September and then import into September. But yes, those kind of reconciliation differences will arise between this legacy system and Oracle because it is their mistake. They should not have sent the data for August because August is already closed. They should have sent it for September. So, but our August period is closed. So we, from a business policy perspective, we do not want to reopen our August period, and hence go to the journal import screen, update those journal lines with the appropriate period, and then again run the import journals. Okay.
I mean, basically, what all we can do in the screen, because there are multiple tabs, right? So we can update the accounts.
Most of the things you can update here. Your account code combination you can update. General line descriptions you can update. You can update the what you call the general period, batch name. Most of the things you can update. Even the descriptive flexibility also you can update. But in order to update all these things, what you need to do first, for that particular source, for that particular journal source, so it could be say spreadsheet source. You should ensure that freeze journal checkbox is no. It should not be yes. It should be no. Only once the freeze journal source box is no, it is not frozen. That means system will allow you to make the changes to those journals. Okay.
But these, I mean, the ones in the correct screen are in the interface table only, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
why is it freeze?
Yeah, even in the interface table, they will be created an interface table for specific source. Am I right?
Oh, okay.
And when you go to this correct screen, this is within again Oracle, right? So when you are selecting a source, it is going to this particular form is going to check whether the free journal source box is checked or unchecked, or whether it is set as yes or no. But if you do it from backend, that is update GL interface table from backend, then obviously all these things will not come into picture.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I mean, obviously, because if you want to run it update from backend, then as you know, like in any live environment, if you want to execute an update script, then you need to take a lot of approvals. Again, they'll ask this question of, okay, why is that you're updating from backend? What is the business reason? Is there any reason why you are not able to do it from general import screen? Are there any practical challenges? Are there any fields which are grayed out here? So these are the different questions which they can ask. For some specific reason, if there are any fields which are grayed out here and which you are not able to update here, then you can do it from the backend, update GL interface table.
Okay, got it.
And again, in any client environment, they will allow us to pass the update script only for the interface table, not for the base tables, unless and until it is a data fix provided by Oracle support.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Close this form. Clear. Close. Why is it says field must be entered? Okay, so that's how you can open or close the period. Okay, but before you open or close the period, there is some checklist which you need to follow. Checklist for the GL period closure. Okay, so if you observe here, so this is the GL period is the last period to be closed in Oracle GL. In Oracle, GL needs to be closed after all subledger periods are closed. So this is the checklist which you need to. So there are some system controls and there are no system controls for certain things. So ensure that you follow this particular checklist. So in our current client, so the user who is actually closing the period will follow this particular checklist. So he has got this particular spreadsheet and he'll ensure that everything is checked. Then only he'll close the period. So first thing is ensure that there are no unposted or error journals by running the Oracle standard report or check from the front end screen. If there are any unposted journals, you can go to journals, enter ledger is Reliance INR ledger, unposted. There are some unposted journals. So ensure that you post those journals. If there are approval is required, ensure that these journals are approved and then they are posted. Ensure that all the subledgers are closed. Okay, you can run your custom reports or you can go to the subledgers and check whether all the subledgers are closed. Ensure that there is no data in the GL interface table. Okay, run some custom reports to check if there is a data which is lying in the interface table. If there is a data which is lying in the interface table, either you need to import them or delete them from the interface table. Ensure that the interface from all the legacy system in Oracle GL are complete. Again, as far as this is concerned, obviously there is no system control. How does system understand that there is any interfaces which needs to be run from the legacy system? You ensure that you contact the legacy system and cross check if they have already sent all the required journals for the current period, and ensure that the revaluation, mass allocation, recurring journals, all those are processed for the concerned month.
Arvind, one question.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that the other module subledgers are closed? Like again, do we need to confirm from the respective modules, or in the GL module, do we know that any specific data is still pending from the subledger?
Okay, so to answer your question, in Fusion we got a dashboard. Okay, in single dashboard you will be able to see what is the period status for general ledger and all the subledgers in a single screen. But unfortunately, we do not have that particular functionality in release 12. In release 12, in our current client, for all the subledgers, what we need to do is we have created a custom program which is going to check the all subledgers, that is accounts payable, accounts receivable, fixed assets, for all the subledgers, for all the operating units, and for all the ledger that we have developed a custom report. It is going to show me the all periods. So I am going to ensure that for September 2017, for all the subledgers, for all the operating units, for all the ledgers, my period status is closed. Then I'll come to my GL and then close, because in my current client we have 40 operating units, 25 ledgers, and we are using accounts payable, accounts receivable, fixed assets subledgers. So it is like highly impossible, like it is like it's so much time consuming if I want to go to each and every subledger and each and every ledger. So we have developed this particular custom report. In single report, I'll be able to see the data for all the ledgers, all the operating units, all the subledgers. Unfortunately, again, Oracle do not have any such a standard report, which will tell you, which will give you the period status of all the subledgers.
Okay, one more consecutive question. Like, you mean to say that you are going to check respective module interface tables? Data is not imported to the GL.
No. I'll not do that. The reason I'll not check these respective subledgers interface table. The reason being, as part of, because first checklist is I need to ensure that all my subledgers are closed. Okay, And as part of the checklist of my subledger, I need to ensure that all the invoices are accounted, all the payments are made, all the subledger interfaces are cleared. So if I run a report which says my subledger is closed, so that means as a GL person, I need not check if there is any data lying in the interface table of the subledger. Am I right?
Okay. Yes.
Because that is already taken care as the checklist of the subledger period closure.
I got you.
Okay. So once all these above things are taken care, okay, what you can do is you can go to this period closure screen, setup, open and close, and you can close the period. Okay. And one other good functionality which R12 has given is, let us assume I have got a 25 ledgers. Now in my current client, 25 ledgers, if I want to open and close 25 ledgers, I need to navigate to 25 different responsibilities. Reliance INR, Reliance USD, Reliance Canada, and so on. So in our case, 25 ledgers. So instead of doing that, what we have done is we have created one responsibility which has access to all the ledgers. So in our case, I have created a responsibility by name General Ledger Superuser Reliance Overseas. So that is the responsibility which I have given. So for this particular responsibility, I have given an access of two ledgers, Reliance USD and Reliance Canada. Okay. Now using this particular responsibility, what I will do is I will close August period for Canada as well as the USD through single screen or by running a program. View, request, submit new request. There is a program called period close periods, and I'm selecting here you can see parameter name is ledger or ledger set. So I am selecting a ledger set of Reliance Overseas, and period to be closed is August 17. Okay. Now through a single report or single program, now I'm trying to close both USD and Canada. Once this particular program is completed, and let us see, we can go to those period close screen and check whether the August period is closed for USD as well as Canada.
Okay, before that, I mean, that was how you given the two ledger access. Is it data access set?
Ledger set. If you remember in our previous discussion, we have seen ledger set. You can go to Control L. Ledger set.
Okay.
So what is our ledger set name? I think Reliance Overseas, right? So if you observe, I did not create ledger set for three ledger, Canada, USD, and INR. I have created only for two ledgers. The reason being, I said like when I'm creating this ledger set, there's a limitation that you can group only those ledgers which is following the same chart of accounts and calendar. For our INR ledger, the chart of accounts is Reliance Accounting Flexible, but the calendar is not accounting. The calendar name of INR ledger is Reliance Calendar. That is the name. So if the calendar is different, I cannot group them. So in this example, I can do, as far as the period closure is concerned, I can do for Canada and USD in single go and INR as the another go. So that means I need to do two steps. In my current client, for all my 25 ledgers, my chart of accounts and calendar is same. Only currency is different. So that is the reason why through a single responsibility, I am able to do a period closure of all 25 ledgers.
And okay, and by end of the day, this responsibility, Reliance Overseas is ideally mapped to data access set profile only, or do we have any other profile where you can set?
No, only data access set. Only GL data access set, and GL data access set profile value of General Ledger Super User Reliance Overseas is Reliance Overseas. That's the name which we have given. Okay, so period close program is completed. Now, from this particular General Ledger so Reliance Overseas, as I said that we have given a data access set which is Reliance Overseas. I'm able to select both Reliance Canadian Ledger and Reliance USD Ledger. So from a data entry also, I should be able to do data entry under two ledgers using a single responsibility. So this is one of the MOAC functionality, multi-org access control functionality. Okay, so coming back to open close.
You mean to say that once you set up the ledger set, you have given the MO profile options at the security profile, custom profile you have set up at the responsibility level.
Okay.
Is that right, Arvind?
Okay, yeah, I'm going to that. So my responsibility is General Ledger Super User Overseas, and the profile option name is GL data access. This is the mandatory profile option which we need to give to any responsibility. Here you can see I can associate to any of the ledgers. I can say Reliance Canadian ledger, Reliance Overseas ledger. So I have given it Reliance Overseas ledger. So once you create a ledger set of Reliance Overseas, that will come in this drop down, and I am able to select that Reliance Overseas. So because of this particular profile option, when I go to this general ledger Reliance Overseas, I am able to see both. So if I go for say general ledger Reliance INR, my profile option is Reliance INR ledger. So when I go to Reliance INR ledger as a responsibility, general ledger supervisor Reliance INR, I'll be able to do a data entry only for the Reliance INR ledger. Okay. Similarly, for the Canadian ledger, Reliance Canada, yeah.
But in the even though we are not using the set, why we supposed to use that? You don't want to use the multiple operating unit related or multiple ledgers with one same responsibility. Then why you are using the ledger set at the profile option level?
No. Okay. So remember, the GL data access set profile option is used to assign either ledger or ledger set. It is mandatory. So if you want to assign a ledger, assign the ledger. If you want to assign a ledger set, assign the ledger. So this drop down is pulling both ledgers as well as the ledger sets.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Okay. Now going back to general ledger vision operation, Reliance Overseas, go to setup, open, close. Now query for Reliance Canadian ledger. It is closed. It was closed by that particular program. So you can see the record history. It is closed at 11:36, 3 minutes ago. Similarly, again click on this torch, bring up the Reliance USD ledger, click on find. Again it is closed. You can see at exactly the same time that is closed. So through a single responsibility which has access to multiple ledgers, you are able to close the period or open the period by running the programs. So for closing of the period, we have got that particular program. Similarly, for opening of the periods also, we got another program, open period. So even for the opening of the period, say let us assume if I want to open the October period, I can select this ledger set of Reliance Overseas and enter the period as October and click on OK. Then it is going to open the October period for both USD as well as the Canadian ledger. And again, using the program, if you want to open for single ledger also, you can open only for the respective ledger. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are a couple. Yeah.
Arvind,
yeah.
You closed an account. You just closed a period now. So mistakenly, after I submit the request and it closed, and I realized there is one entry missing. Since the period is still in the close itself, do I have any option to reopen it and do the adjustment?
That's what. Closed. Come here, and you can click on open. Okay. But instead of clicking on open, I mean that will not work. In 11i, you can directly click on open, save this. But in R12, they have introduced a particular open target period. Please press the open period button and select the close period to reopen. So in order to open this, click on this open target period. So what is the period which you want to open? You want to open August, right?
Yeah.
Open. Are you sure you want to open the target period? Yes. Wait for this particular program to be completed, and once this is completed, you can come back to this particular screen and you can see the period status is changed to open, and then you can do a data entry. Okay. And there are a couple of other points. As soon as the period is closed, okay, as I said that as part of my checklist, I am ensuring that all the subledgers are closed. You should ensure that, okay. But from an Oracle standard functionality also, whenever you close this GL period, automatically subledger period close exception report gets auto triggered, and this is the functionality only in R12. It is not there in 11i. Okay. It will allow you to close the period, and if there are any exceptions, it will trigger those exceptions in the subledger period close exception report. It will not stop you from closing the period. You can still very well close the period, and then it will automatically trigger the subledger period close exceptions report. You can review those exceptions, and if you feel that, oh, for some reason there are some entries which are missing to be posted from say subledgers to GL, Ideally, that should not be the scenario, because if that is the case, then it should have even stopped you from closing the subledger period itself. Okay, for some reason, for one of the subledger period is not closed and the transactions are not even transferred from the subledgers to general ledger, and there is a miscommunication and you started closing the period. If when you try to start close the period, system will allow you to close the period. It will trigger the subledger period close exception report, and in the subledger period close exception report, you will be able to view the exception. Then you will have appropriate discussion with the concerned subledger person, asking them like how this got missed out, and then he realized that it's a user mistake. Then he will do an accounting for those subledger transactions, post it to general ledger, close the subledger period. Okay, and when they are posting it to subledger from general ledger, then again it will get stuck in the GL interface because GL period is closed. What you need to ensure, you need to reopen the period, push those entries into general ledger, and close the period. But in a real world, if there is any exception, the subledger period close exception, then a lot of things you need to involve the subledger guys, you need to involve the GL guys, you need to take an approvals. There are so many different things, and it needs to be properly what you call timed. Like in the subledger, again you need to reopen the GL period. Again in the subledgers, nobody should be doing a data entry, and even the GL also nobody should be doing a data entry. And you should ensure that the top management has not submitted the numbers to the auditors or the shareholders. You need to do all those things. Then you finally take a decision that okay, I want to reopen the general ledger period, push the data from subledgers to general ledger, reopen the period, and then post those journals and then close the period. Okay. I mean, like from a system perspective, it's pretty straightforward. You can go there and click on that open target period and open the period. But in a real world, that's not how it happens. Only restricted persons will have the access, and they need to take a lot of approvals before they open or close the period. And they need to provide a justification if in future somebody asks or raises a question as to why the period is reopened. Okay. So that's it from the general ledger module perspective. So today I'll share this particular training material. Now this particular training material is the final training material for the entire general ledger module. Okay, and also send you the final GL BR100. And from tomorrow onwards, we'll start with the AP module, and also send you the practice questions. I think for the last week I did not send you a practice question. I'll also send you the practice questions for the last week topics as well as today's topic. Okay.
Hey, Arvind, just 2 questions. I think we can wrap up GL for today's session. One is, it's a kind of a business scenario. Let's say I'm already in an Oracle system, okay, and the chart of account I'm currently using in my old Oracle system is, let's say, 6 segment, okay, and I wanted to and I was been using that particular system for almost ages, like 2-3 years, or let's say 10 years, something like that. Now the corporate business who sits in a different location in the headquarters, they decided that, hey, I want to modify my chart of account for that particular company from 6 to 7. And they want a simple conversion of that old chart of account data and the old chart of account details based on the journals, whatever they maintain for last years. They want to move it to the new accounting structures completely. So what is the implementation steps to be considered? I mean, this is just think about it. There is no subledgers involved, nothing involved. It's only the GL module which is supposed to be converted from old COA to new COA. And what are the steps to be considered typically from the functional angle perspective?
Okay, so to answer your question, first question is, before I answer your question, I have got a couple of questions for you. So this is just a one-time conversion, or are you expecting the data to be coming from that legacy system into Oracle GL on a continuous basis, even after go live?
It continues, because
okay. It's a continuous
basis. Yeah.
Okay. So you want to do a one-time activity, and then also continuously you will get the data from the source system into our general ledger. So the source system has got 6 segments, and our general ledger has got, say, 7 segments. And we have been using our current system for ages, and we have been using this with 7 segments. But in this case, as we started building this interface from the source system into legacy, you wanted to build from 6, you want to bring them into 7 segments. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then the first step would be, you will be writing some program which will pull the data from the source system into your GL interface. Okay, And then once the data is in the GL interface, you need to run a wrap-up program or a custom program, which will update one more seventh segment value as 0000, because our Oracle cannot accept only 6 segments. It needs to accept. It will accept only 7 segments because our chart of account segment structure is 7 segments. So one option in that case would be, once the data is reached in the GL interface table, update the seventh segment value as 00000 for all the lines, and then do an import into GL. And in the GL, once it is imported, you will be able to see the general lines for those data, whatever is being sent from the legacy system. And in the general lines, you will be able to see 7 segment values.
Okay.
So that is the one option.
That is
so. Second thing is
the journal, right?
Sorry.
That is from the journal import perspective.
Exactly. So before you run the general import in the GL interface, you massage the data. In the GL interface, you make the changes. That is what generally most of the clients will do. If you want to make any changes, once the data is reached to your GL interface table, you make the changes there and then push it into GL interface. GL based tables by running the general import.
Yeah, I got that point. But my point is, before this activity, before I started accumulating the general input interface program to build, from the functional configurations or the functional requirement gathering perspective, for this kind of a business scenario, what are the key questions you should be considering it to make it in your checklist perspective?
Okay, as far as this point is concerned, there is nothing like, so your question is basically, if it's a 6 segment structure and I want to import into 7 segment structure. So if that is the only question, so the question would be pretty straightforward. You need to update that 7th segment in the GL interface table. But if your question is something like, when I'm getting the data from the legacy system into Oracle, what are the questions which I need to ask to the legacy system user, then it will be a different thing. So in those cases, if that is the question, then you need to ask a lot of questions like, their system is different and our system is different. So from our system perspective, whenever you're creating a journal entry in GL, so if you go to journal entry screen, journals, enter new journal. So what are the mandatory fields? You can just check from here. You require a journal batch name, journal entry name, ledger name, journal category, journal period, account code combination, debits and credits. So when you are asking questions to the legacy system, you need to ask them, hey boss, like, this is how our Oracle works. So for everything, I need to have a journal batch name, journal header name, ledger name, category name, period name, journal line description, journal line code combination, debits and credit. Okay. And in the HINI system, there is nothing called general category. Okay. Then in your custom program, you need to hard code that. When you're pulling the data from your source system, pull whatever he is sending and then hard code certain values. So as far as the general category is concerned, just always hard code the general category, say some ABC. And accounting period, we are calling it as an accounting period, but he may call it as some other name. You need to map it, like you need to map your accounting period with his name, whatever he is using. And effective date, we are calling it.
Okay.
We are calling it
I
as.
got that one.
Mhm.
The point I was asking, I understand this one. I mean, if it is a fresh implementation where there is no link between legacy operations to Oracle operations, I understand. These are the things we need for our initial configurations or the understanding perspective. But the case I'm trying to highlight here is like both my source and target is Oracle ERP, Oracle Financials only, but they decided to convert the whole GL from a 6 segment to 7 segment structure going forward, let's say from October onwards. So in that scenario, before I started importing journals or other stuff, I should have a journal, I should have a ledger defined with a new structure of 7 segment, and I should have what are all the new changes impacting for that accounting structure. Is there anything else or only one new ledger to be defined which has a segment structure?
Okay, it all depends on, like, when you are bringing that data from the source system, are you bringing them into the existing ledger with existing chart of accounts, or whether you are defining a new ledger and new chart of accounts. If it's a new ledger and new chart of accounts, then obviously, if you refer my GL BR100, whatever the steps which I had mentioned in my GL BR100, more or less you need to follow all those steps: defining of your ledger, defining of auto reversal criteria, defining of the legal entity, defining of the company codes, assigning of the company codes to the legal entities, associating of the legal entities to the ledger, and so many things, whatever which are actually ledger specific, you need to complete with those things. You need to create a ledger responsibility, you need to associate the profile option for this responsibility, and you need to associate, you need to assign that responsibility to the user, and so on.
Okay. So if a thumb rule is, if a business decides to go for a brand new ledger, then it remains same as what we did in the BR100, right, at this
Exactly.
moment.
Yeah, some of these are kind of a global. Say, take an example, general categories, general source are global, but those fine. But most of the other things like ledger setup, legal entity, operating unit, company code, responsibilities, all these are kind of a ledger or a responsibility level. So you need to set up all those things.
Okay. If we not go for a new ledger, then the option you are saying is, you massage the data in the GL interface and append the new segment and import with that combination to Oracle.
Yes. So, okay. So that is the solution if you are sending, if you are getting the data from the legacy system into Oracle GL. Okay. But if the legacy system itself is another Oracle ERP, okay. So even if it is totally in another Oracle version of ERP, and you are bringing that into a current version of Oracle ERP, then also you build a custom program, because these are two different instances. So even in that particular case also, you need to follow the same principle.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. And the second point, Arvind, it's another scenario. Like, let's say I am using, let's take an example of USD and Canada, right? I'm using Canada Ledger for again last 2 years or 3 years, something like that. I have a transactions. I'm doing a normal business using that ledger, and that is my primary ledger when I'm operating it. So going forward, let's say from my October onwards, I decided that my operations is not making too much progress in terms of the overall profits perspective. Then I decided to merge that particular OU to that particular ledger to my USD, which is a neighbor country. Okay, so that my cost will get reduced in the Canada directly. So, and again, take the activity like both source and target is Oracle itself.
Okay.
So how can I merge that Canada ledger to USD, and what are my implications?
Okay, so even though both are same Canada and what do you call USD ledger, one and the same, or which in the same system, okay, there are a couple of things
Yeah.
like one thing is like, you want to push the data whatever is there under the Canada ledger to USD ledger. So there is something called consolidation function. You can use the consolidation functionality. When you are doing a consolidation functionality, you can do a mapping between the USD and Canadian ledger, and you can run the consolidation process. When you run the consolidation process, it is going to bring over all the open balances under USD ledger under Canadian ledger into the USD ledger. And then in the mapping also, there is also called a chart of accounts mapping. When you do a consolidation, you can refer our BR100. So in the mapping also, you need to specify like if there are, say, if it is a scenario of like 6 segments in Canada and say 7 segments in in USD ledger. Okay, in the mapping you can see for first 6 segments you can do a mapping, company to company, account to account, sub account to sub account, something like that. And for the 7th segment you can directly use the default value of 000. So that means when you run your consolidation process will bring over first 6 segments from the Canadian ledger. For the 7th segment, automatically it will put a default value of 000, and you can run the consolidation process. That is the one way. Other way would be, you need to close your Canadian ledger, okay, run your trial balance in the Canadian ledger, okay, upload that particular trial balance in the USD ledger as a normal journal entry. Obviously when you are actually uploading, obviously you need to massage the data to a certain extent, and then directly do an upload of the journal entry via WebADA, which is a trial balance upload into USD ledger. I mean, that is only from a general ledger perspective. There are again a lot of other things, like if the Canadian ledger is using subledgers, okay. If the Canadian ledger is using subledgers, then you cannot do a kind of a pushing of the data from if there are open invoices in Canadian ledger, you cannot send that open invoices under Canadian ledger into USD ledger as an open invoice. You need to do a total data conversion exercise there. You need to close those things in Canadian ledger. You need to recreate them under the USD ledger, and from an accounting perspective, you need to do a couple of other things. It's totally a data conversion exercise.
Oh, it's only involved with the data conversion.
Sorry?
It's only with the involvement of a conversion activity only,
Yes,
not
yes.
for the integration perspective. Okay, okay.
Yeah,
It's a one-time activity, you mean to say, right?
yes, because you are closing your Canadian ledger. And there are a couple of other, once you've done all this data connection activity, also you need to do a couple of things like put any end date against that particular ledger, inactivate those responsibilities so that users will not use those responsibilities, and ensure, before you do that, ensure that all the balances are actually nullified, moved from this particular ledger to some other ledger, and so on.
And the two alternate options, like let's say, if the consolidation is acceptable by the business, and the easiest option is a consolidation with no conversion activities involved, right?
Yeah, but if you go with the consolidation, that's only from a GL perspective, okay, to bring over the open trial balance. But as far as the subledgers are concerned, you need to still go ahead with the option of closing those invoices in the in the Canadian subledger and recreating them in the USD ledger. So more or less, we have gone with exactly same scenario in our current client. Couple of months back, we have got a Japan operating unit under a USD ledger, and then we have decided that we need to have its own new Japan ledger with a new Japan operating unit. So we have more or less gone with the same scenario wherein we have closed the Japan subledger open invoices under USD ledger, created the open invoices under the Japan operating unit, which is falling under the Japan ledger, and then we have uh, uploaded a trial balance in GL under Japan ledger, and under USD ledger with the Japan entity, we have entered a trial balance which will give a negative impact of the existing trial balance. So there are a lot of things there.
Okay, okay, got it, got it.
Okay, so any other
Okay,
questions before we end the call?
I'm done.
Okay, okay, thanks guys.